Hare Krishna. Video, audio. Hare Krishna. Oh, I think somehow the volume in my device is very low, which is interesting. I don't know why. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Okay. I think there's some issue with my. No. Let me just use my phone. Hare Krishna. Yeah, this is better, I guess. This is better for me. Let me just go to portrait mode. Okay, that is also interesting. So, what did I do? Did I not? Okay, the video. Okay, now am I? Allow things. Okay, okay, allow. Okay. You can see me, but my image is still not good. Is this okay? Okay, what happened? What did I do? Go back. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Correct. Okay. You want me to read the question, and or would you like to ask the question? Okay, so the first question is, first of all, I'm very happy to be here with all of you. And when Damodar Hari Prabhu gave me the numbers, I hope it was not to scare me. 50. Was it supposed to be scared? Then I'll have that kind of smiley look. But I'm really happy. I'm really happy to be here amongst all of you. And hopefully, we are going to have a very interesting session. Is my voice audible? Clearly audible? If it is not, please let me know. Okay, the first question is, okay, thank you. The first question is, I had discussions with some family members about the story of Ekalavya and why it was right or wrong of Guru Drona to ask for his thumb. Okay. So I'm happy you had that discussion, and hopefully that discussion went well. So is there anything in particular that I'm supposed to address here in this question? Oops, sorry. Okay. 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 All right. And first of all, we are not here to say that X ABC is right and XYZ is wrong. That's not the purpose here. Uh, Secondly, the scriptures are they always kind of give a perspective from the past. So we have to try and seek lessons from the scriptures. So when we try to say, oh, why this did not happen and that did not happen, it's like we are trying to bring in too many subplots into the script. So if somebody feels that Guru Drone should have done something different, well, we have the opportunity. So if we are in the position of Guru Drone, then we could do it for any student that we have. We have the opportunity. So rather than suggest what he could be doing, we'll just try to understand what the Mahabharata says. The Mahabharata simply states that under the circumstances, because there were certain conditions wherein Dronacharya was obliged to teach in a particular institute where he could teach the Kauravas and the Pandavas and similar princes. So this was a very elite institute, and he did not really have the facility to do online coaching, or he did not have the facility where on the weekends he could reach out to others. That does not it does not appear to be there in the Mahabharata. So rather than try and take these personalities to be superheroes, uh, we can try and understand what could be the scenario at that point of time. So there was a certain kind of pressure on Dronacharya where uh, Ekalavya and Dronacharya could not have spent sufficient time with each other. And Dronacharya had made it very clear to Ekalavya in the very beginning that he would not be able to give him time, so he was free to approach anyone else. Ekalavya uh, decided to do it on his own, and he was pretty successful in that. He really did train himself up very nicely. Since he had said, and with a lot of emphasis, that he was a disciple of Dronacharya, and that was a public statement. it would have been very difficult for either Ekalavya or Dronacharya to convince anyone otherwise. So please try and understand these situations. These are very day-to-day normal incidents. So if you do not try to uh, um glamorize the Mahabharata, but just try to put ourselves in regular day-to-day situations where people go through such situations in life, then we'll realize that it's not really very extraordinary that somebody like Dronacharya, a teacher, finds himself in a situation like that. Now, since Ekalavya had publicly made that claim, uh, there was this uh, opportunity, or there was this situation, rather than opportunity, there was a situation where Dronacharya could offer some advice to Ekalavya. And that was an advice in humility, an advice in how one must try to understand how one what is one's occupational duty. So therein he asked for what seems to be a very harsh donation. It seems to be a very harsh donation. So he asked him for his thumb. So my understanding is that Dronacharya could not uh, offer Ekalavya a one-on-one opportunity because of his circumstances, which is quite normal. Secondly, he had uh, quite upfront informed Ekalavya of the situation. Thirdly, Ekalavya had on his own decided to kind of uh, um, be a Robin Hood, I guess. I mean, um, like practice on his own or train himself on his own. And he was quite accomplished in doing that. And fourthly, since he had claimed publicly to be a disciple of Dronacharya, therefore Dronacharya found himself in a situation where he could ask Ekalavya for a donation for Guru Dakshina, wherein he asked for his thumb of his right hand. So that is how the situation is. Now, whether it is right, whether it is wrong, he could have done this, he could have done that. Those are options that we may have in our lives. If we are in a situation like that, we could have those options in our lives. Is that helpful? Okay. Okay. So yes, whether it was moral on the part of Dronacharya to ask such a donation, which seems to be um, it seems to be very brutal when seen from Ekalavya's perspective. Is that what you're trying to ask? Whether was well, it seems okay. Yes. Okay. Whether it was right for him to ask for the thumb, that is the question being asked. Was it the best way for him to? Good question. Hopefully, or let us say it would have been so much better if we had Guru Drone here and we could have asked him the question that what were you thinking? What made you do that? Unfortunately, we don't have him here, so we kind of have to seek our own understandings, isn't it? Um, as I said, Dronacharya was not in a situation to have um, Ekalavya as a student, and that is very clear in the Mahabharata. So even if he wanted to train him otherwise, henceforward, that would also not be, most probably, it would not be possible. There were certain compulsions. He had to have that job. He had signed a contract and things like that. So there were certain compulsions wherein he could not be in a position where even if he did offer any other kind of advice that we feel that he should have looked at other options. There was very little chances for him to follow up with Ekalavya. And we see that in the Mahabharata, even after this incident, there was no follow up. Secondly, Bruno, we have to understand that in those times, maybe this wasn't considered to be as brutal because the transaction did take place. And most importantly, we forget that a teacher can seek a donation. A student can always suggest one's inability to give that donation. Doesn't make the student any less. Ekalavya had the option to say that, my dear spiritual master, this would be, or my dear teacher, this would be a little difficult for me to do. And he was an adult. At that point of time, he was an adult, and he is, he will be held responsible for whatever decision he takes in life. So it was Ekalavya's decision to accept Dronacharya's proposal. So let us not forget that. So both are adults here. Uh, Dronacharya is an adult, Ekalavya is an adult. Um, there is some transaction taking place between them. Ekalavya agreed to it, and since everything is happening in the public eye, things went forward. Is that helpful? As I suggested, we did not have to kind of say that, yeah, I will be just like Dronacharya and this is how I treat another Ekalavya. No, we can do otherwise if we feel that is the best option that is available to us. The consequences will always kind of, um, in retrospect, help us understand whether our decisions were right or wrong. In the Mahabharata, we see that the consequence of Dronacharya doing that was good. Does it justify him doing that? That is not what we are. That is not where I would like to kind of discuss that because it's kind of outside my jurisdiction and purview to kind of discuss what could have been and what could not. So I always try to discuss on what I understand is being presented in the scriptures rather than try and imagine what could be the situation. Because that is what a book gives. A book only gives us facts. So that is where we are. So as you said in your readings, you found out that later on, Ekalavya had different leanings in life. He was interested in supporting people who seemed to be um, against the betterment of society. It seems like that. That is there documented in history, I guess. So would Dronacharya, would he do that with other students? Well, we do not have any other examples of that. Yeah, that's a good point too. He wasn't around. Is that okay? Can we go to the next question then? You're welcome. If you want any more discussions on it, just let me know. Sometimes you feel that maybe there has to be a little more discussion. So let me know if you need that. You're welcome. Okay. Okay. Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Anmo. So what you're suggesting is that maybe sometimes we kind of give this superhero status to people from the scriptures, and we expect a lot from them. There's a lot of expectation. And you also mentioned that in this particular scenario, Guru Drone seems to be smaller, and Ekalavya seems to be a greater person. And if we just kind of accept that their personalities having interactions with each other, then we can make peace with whatever transpires. Yes, that is true. I completely agree with it. At the same time, there are few things that I would like to point out, and maybe we could think about it. First of all, the consequences of let us, of Guru Dronacharya's decision is also kind of reflected in the Mahabharata. So we may like to look at that, which could mean that maybe he had this, let us say, a better understanding of human nature or something along those lines. Maybe that is what kind of made him go ahead with this proposal to Ekalavya. It's quite possible that Dronacharya could, he knew how to read people and their personalities. Um, that is when we look at the later part of the Mahabharata, and then we can say, well, that kind of makes you think that, okay, this is why Dronacharya could have asked for Ekalavya's thumb. Secondly, does it really make Dronacharya look smaller than Ekalavya? Maybe, maybe not, because uh, if we are not going to attribute superhero status to anyone, then we should also try not to attribute it to Ekalavya too. We should consider both of them to be on the same platform. And if we consider both of them to be on the same platform and we are not overawed with either one of them, then we realize that Ekalavya always had the facility to say, to express that that he would not be able to provide that donation, the Guru Dakshina, and which is perfectly all right for a student to do so. In fact, scriptures declare that a student can say no, and that doesn't mean that the student is any less or the student is disqualified. One can offer donations according to one's capacity. Ekalavya shares, it seems that he also, either because of his immaturity or because of his understanding of what is a teacher-student relationship, or his uh, misunderstanding of what a teacher-student relationship, he went ahead and accepted the proposal of Dronacharya. Uh, I'm not suggesting that he is wrong. However, we may want to look at the aspect of pride here too. Is it is if it is pride, then is such a pride in a student helpful because Ekalavya loses his finger, and and the pride is still there. So we may want to consider even that aspect in our discussion. Just wanted to add to that. Is that all right, Anmolji? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So you just made a comment that from the again in retrospect, because we have the consequences also mentioned within the Mahabharata, or we can see the later events also unfold in the Mahabharata. We see that Dronacharya got some kind of reaction for whatever misadventures or whatever decisions he made in life. Rather than misadventures, I would say whatever decisions he made in life, he kind of had to answer for them. Uh, and since it is Dharma Kshetra, it seems that he kind of also um, had to undergo certain kind of suffering, which means there were certain principles that had been transgressed by him too. So yes, that could be a consideration too. Yes, we could try and be careful if we are in a situation like Guru Dronacharya is. You're welcome. Okay. Okay. Same, and credit to whatever good qualities he had. Hmm. Okay, so Anand, you're suggesting that Dronacharya, Ekalavya has been since so many, at least in our lifetime, and maybe even before our lifetime, we see that he has been glorified as the best disciple, and often his name is taken as an example of what a good disciple or student is. And therefore, you are suggesting that he did receive credit for his performing the duties of a disciple or a student, and so that's one point. And secondly, uh, I'm sorry, I missed out the second point towards the end. What So he's got his share of it. Yes, you also mentioned the Varnashram system, correct? And how although he was not from the not born in a warrior class, the Kshatriyas, still he got the fame that is accorded to Kshatriya warriors, and therefore for in your case you feel that that is a fair deal for him too, since he did receive fame. And I do agree with you that for a Kshatriya, a fame in this life and beyond is definitely very much desired for. That is true. At the same time, there have been incidences where people from uh, different classes, they have been trained in a particular in a particular skill. There are many examples of that. So herein, Guru Dronacharya um, he had signed a contract that he would train people, children from this and this section of society, and he was bound by that contract. And there were political reasons behind that. So this contract was signed by him with the Kaurava clan, with the rulers of Hastinapur, and so everyone is within their rights to kind of come up with contracts like that. So he was bound to be doing that. He was bound by that contract. And even if let us say that maybe Dronacharya could have trained somebody else. However, since he was bound by that contract, he couldn't do it. And that is the point I was trying to bring up very early in the discussion, that due to certain circumstances, Dronacharya would not be able to give time to Ekalavya. That was something that he was bound by. So, is that okay? You're you're welcome. So now we'll go to, sorry, next question. The story of Draupadi asking for 5 husbands that we had talked about in our last program. So, what was the question, Swati, here? Well, okay. As I said, scriptures just give they are just written words as far as we are concerned. So sometimes we have to kind of picturize what happened. We have to kind of try to understand what happened. So what really happened was that Draupadi was in a previous life. This is how the story is in the Purana. That in the previous life she was worshipping Lord Mahadev for a husband, and she really wanted a very qualified husband. And uh, she had already described to Lord Shiva uh, what are the qualities that she was looking for in a husband. So in her eagerness, when she asked that please grant me a boon that I could have a husband with these very qualities, Lord Shiva said, Tathastu. So she was so happy, or she was so overwhelmed, or she was so much into it that she again asked it. Maybe she wanted it to be reconfirmed, or she just wanted to hear it again. So she again repeated the same question, that I want a husband. And it seems that she did this 5 times. Isn't that like, haven't we found ourselves in a situation like that, in situations like that too, where we kind of again reaffirm, are you sure? Are you sure? Somebody, let's suppose we are bargaining for a thing, and there's a particular price, XYZ. Then we say XYZ, right? And before we make the payment again, because we are so happy with the deal, we are like XYZ, isn't it? So in this case, because it is Mahadev, he said Tathastu 5 times. Basically means that that has that had to come true. The words of Lord Mahadev, just like a judge, if a judge gives a decision, then that to kind of change that decision, one has to have another case come up. One has to again kind of go for another set of proceedings. So when Lord Mahadev when he makes a statement, then that has to come true. So since she said, maybe she was, it, the Puranas say that she was very excited. That is what the Puranas say. So maybe she did that. That was not her intention. Lord Shiva confirmed her, not confirm it, but whenever she said, I would like to, this is the kind of husband that I would want to have, and Lord Shiva just said, too. So this happened 5 times, according to that reference, and hence she had 5 husbands in her next life. Is that all right? So, so okay, sure. Um, so you're saying that um, the Lord is in the heart, so He knows exactly what we are asking for. True, that is very true. So if you are a true devotee, then the Lord is the communication between the devotee and the Lord is it is very good. It is there's no barrier to that communication. There is no lag in that communication. This is very true. What you're suggesting is very true. So are you say that in the case of Draupadi in a previous life, that is how it is? That she is what you said is a pure devotee. Oh, well, there are various ways to look at um, a person who's very sincere. When we speak of a devotee, we are speaking of somebody who's connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We say Krishna. We say that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. There are various other forms of the Lord too. So when we are when the communication with the Lord is totally unmotivated, completely unmotivated, then that is the highest level of communication. However, if there are other if there is some motivation involved, if there's some desire involved, especially within this material world, then it means that there is this inclination to exist in this material world. And existence in this material world uh, puts us in a place which can easily contaminate us. So the Puranic reference that is given in terms of how Draupadi got that blessing is that she pleased Lord Shiva. So it's not very easy to please demigods or superior beings. Humans need to put in a lot of effort and they have to be very sincere in their effort. Now, if their efforts are, let's say, pure, we'll use the word pure. If their efforts are pure, um, although they may be seeking certain fruits, they may be seeking certain desires to be fulfilled. If their efforts are pure, they are called as very good devotees, or they are called as very good worshippers. So, from that point of view, Draupadi in a previous life is considered to be a very good worshipper who had pleased Lord Shiva. However, she still, in that life, she still falls short of what we call as uh, a person who has unmotivated service attitude towards the Supreme Lord. She still falls short of that. So she wanted to have an existence in this material world. So that is one point that I wanted to state. The second point that I wanted to say was that since you use corporate language, that lack of communication, well, we could kind of look at Draupadi's desire as she was seeking a gadget that had elements of Microsoft in it, like Windows, with the OS also having elements of Apple in it, iOS. She also wanted Oracle incorporated into it, which I guess is incorporated, but Google, she wanted some certain aspects of Google. So Lord Shiva could understand that what she's asking for is, and which was also manifested through her asking 5 times, was that uh, she would need 5 different personalities who would be able to fulfill all of her conditions. All right. Thank you so very much. Oh, as I was, I must, as I was giving this answer, something was going on at the back of my mind. It was about Ekalavya as the best student, and I missed out on that. In Krishna consciousness, whenever you hear us speak about Krishna, a student-teacher relationship, we generally give the example of Arjuna being the best student ever, Arjun being the best student ever, and we speak of Krishna being the best teacher ever. So I missed that out in my previous answer. So just kind of wanted to state that since the time I have come to Krishna consciousness and I have read the Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures, and I've heard from so many thoughtful people, what I've understood is that the best example of a student is Arjun, best ever, and the best example of a teacher is Krishna. Okay, all right, you're welcome. So now we'll take. Okay. Okay, you're suggesting that Draupadi should have been happy that she got 5 husbands who were so they were yeah, they were so exalted. Well, yes, I guess there's always going to be different perspectives based on a gender. I guess that's on a lighter note, isn't it? Women may not feel the same as men feel. Absolutely on a lighter note. You also, yeah, exactly. Somebody was saying something. Okay, so you are wondering that why Draupadi did not get 5 husbands in that life and why she got it in the next life. That is also mentioned in that very same Purana. For certain reasons, there were certain reasons which is mentioned in the Purana, and I would suggest that maybe you could look it up, the reference. Draupadi had been doing these austerities to get these really super husbands, so to say, like super evolved husbands. And Lord Shiva had told her that in this lifetime, for her, these such personalities would not be available, but she would have these personalities in her next life. So somehow it seems that Lord Shiva could foresee the future to a certain extent. Is that helpful? Sure. Yes. Okay, the next question is by Nishant Prabhu. Thanks to the teachings of great souls like Arun Prabhuji and Deepak Prabhuji, I am beginning to understand who am I. But other than the fact that I exist to perform my duties towards the world in general and my family in particular, and to perform bhakti of the Supreme Lord, are there any other reasons why I exist? I may be a thing that gives joy to the Lord, But is that the only reason I was created? Oh, very, very interesting question. I think a lot of thought has been put into it. Um, I would like to clarify the last statement that has been written here. The last statement is, I may be a thing that gives joy to the Lord, but is that the only reason I was created? Um, I am a being that needs to be joyful, that is joyful by nature. Right now, I'm in a situation where I am, that joy is interrupted due to various reasons. So I am a being that uh, feels comfortable with uninterrupted joy. This uninterrupted joy is felt, or this uninterrupted happiness is experienced when one serves the Lord. So that would be the clarification that I would like to suggest here, that we are not created simply to serve the Lord. Our existence is to experience joy. Our existence is to experience happiness. Technically, that is called as Anand. And this is uh, especially in circles where Vedic studies are done, the soul is referred to as being Satchit Anand. So Ananda means we are comfortable only when there is uninterrupted happiness or constant happiness. That is where the Sat aspect comes, the eternal. So we are comfortable with eternal happiness. That is it. Now this eternal happiness is achieved when we are connected to the Lord. And the reason is the Lord is the complete, the whole, and we are part. So, being part of the whole, when we are connected to the whole, when we are uh, united with the whole, then that completes us. Then that gives us an experience of complete happiness. Right now, what we are experiencing is, or right now, what we are going through is called as sadhana. It is like being retrained in how to be happy. Somehow we have forgotten how to be happy uh, constantly, how to have constant happiness and be in constant happiness. We've forgotten that. And the process of sadhana, the process of purification that we accept, wherein service to the Lord is the bottom line, that helps us re-establish ourselves in the world, or in the on the platform of constant happiness. I hope that is relatable. We can relate to that. Um, okay, so what you're saying is that because we're part of the Lord, since the Lord is Sachidanand, because we are part of the Lord, therefore we carry a little bit of it. Actually, we are completely Sachidanand, not just a little part of us. We are totally Sachidanand. The Lord is the whole and we are the part. It is like the sun and the sunshine. The particles of sunshine are completely, let us say, prakashmay, which means they are full of light. Every single particle of sunlight is full of light. There's no darkness in sun and the particles of sunlight. That's uh, that's how it is. And the sun is also full of light. So we are completely Satchidanand. However, we are to the Lord as the particles of sunlight are to the sun. Is that okay? You're welcome. So can we move on to the next question? Did I answer this query of Nishant ji? Okay, thank you. You're welcome. It's 7:42. So please let me know, Damodar Hari Prabhu, when we have to stop. Okay, sure. So the next question is by Madhu Kiran ji. There are three questions. First one is how well we can practice the Bhagavad Gita teachings in our daily lives that are materialistic and we still might have to deal with day-to-day things such as prejudice, ego, love, hurt, insults, etc. Sometimes which we can't escape. What can we do to practice the principles despite all of these? Okay. Um, Here suggests the analogy of a physician or a doctor who has to every day interact with people who are definitely patients, which basically means they can transmit or they can give another person the germs. They can transmit diseases or they can transfer diseases if you would like to say it like that. But the physician knows exactly what he or she is doing because the physician is trained, the physician is in knowledge. So when you are in knowledge, even if you are in an epidemic, even if you are in very challenging situations, you take all precautions to protect yourself and at the same time you uh, perform your duties such that uh, through your duties there are uh, you help the situation in this world, the world that you exist, you kind of add value to it by performing a duty. Similarly, when we practice the Bhagavad Gita sincerely, when we adopt principles from the Bhagavad Gita, and everyone can start off by adopting principles which they can relate to, and slowly they can expand the number of the different principles or the different qualities that they would like to imbibe from the Gita's teaching. So when we do that, when we imbibe the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita within our lives, then slowly but surely we get transformed by this knowledge. So now we become knowledgeable. And since we are in knowledge, we take all precautions to protect us from whatever could infect our spiritual immunity or which could challenge our spiritual immunity. We take precautions against that. We also take measures which help us fortify our spiritual immunity. And then we may be in situations which are contaminating. However, since our immunity, our spiritual immunity is good, we not only protect ourselves, but we also are able to perform our duties, which in turn adds value, some kind of value to the lives of people around us and to this world. So, what can we do to practice the principles despite all of this? Try to be as much in knowledge as possible. The safest position to be in this material world while we have this material body is to always be in knowledge. As soon as we become forgetful of knowledge, there is a danger uh, of miscalculation, misinterpretations. There is a danger of kind of being distracted or completely, totally forgetful too. So let us always try to be in knowledge. Let us always try to remember the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Let us practice these teachings in our lives such that the through the practice, the teachings become alive in our own existence. Like you get so trained up in your particular vocation that just by what you do, you remember the principles too. You don't have to kind of separately remember the principles to carry out your activities. So that is what we are trying to do here. We are trying to become so very good at a craft, at a spiritual, so well trained in a spiritual understanding that um, it seems that our actions are simply a reflex of the knowledge that we have imbibed. It seems like that. Although what has really happened is that the time lag between action and reaction has reduced a lot. Between knowledge and the application of that knowledge, as we become more expert, like through practice, we reduce the time lag between knowledge and the application of that knowledge. So the knowledge at one of time, the application of knowledge becomes the very living knowledge itself. So Gyan is now Vigyan. That is how the Sanskrit terminology is that Gyan is now Vigyan. So Gyan exists in Vigyan now. So the application of knowledge keeps the knowledge alive. Is that helpful? You're welcome. Question number two. As they say, the Bhagavad Gita is the one solution for all the problems of life. Okay. How can I change or set reset my approach to get the best out of my life as per the scripture? Um, the Bhagavad Gita gives us the principles, and the principle is like really very, very simple. I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. Better put, I'm spirit soul and not this body. The body is simply uh, a facility which helps me realize my identity as spirit soul. So the more we try and meditate on this one statement, the more clarity we'll have in the other details that have been offered in the Bhagavad Gita and otherwise too. So this kind of we should just imprint it on our consciousness as early as possible, ASAP, which could mean a day, it could mean a week, it could mean a month or a year or even one lifetime. Doesn't really matter even if it takes one lifetime. But if within one lifetime we can have this imprinted on our consciousness, I am spirit soul, I am Atma, I am not this Sharira, I am not this Deha, I am not this body. If that constantly remains within our consciousness, then one lifetime having tried to achieve it is worth it. Is really worth it. So that is all that we have to do. Everything else is details. This is the underlying theme. I am spirit soul, I am not this body. From that will arise, all right, so since I am spirit soul, therefore I need to serve what my existence is for, to find joy. Joy can be found in devotional service. Body is a facility to help me achieve that. So now I engage my senses slowly but surely in trying to find that joy, that happiness. So much so that at one point of time, the body is completely spiritualized. It's totally spiritualized. So is that helpful? You're welcome. Okay. So, if I understand correctly, you are saying that the world that we live in, or the life that we have right now, there is a lot of discussion about the needs of the body. And although we understand that there is the existence of the soul, typically that understanding really comes to the forefront when somebody leaves the body. That is when we say, may soul rest in peace. Did that paraphrase it correctly? Okay. So, why is it? Is that what you're asking? Why does it happen that, or is it just something that is kind of there in your mind and you just kind of mentioned it? That's it. Okay. So, in your own personal experience, growing up, um, you do still remember, and that stayed with you, that your mother would kind of advise, uh, she would give you this good advice that try not to hurt another person because they are उनकी आत्मा को चोट मत पहुंचाओ. Basically, that is how you put it in Hindi. किसी की आत्मा को चोट मत पहुंचाओ या दुख मत दो. So try not to hurt another person uh, of their existence. And your observation is that in today's times, you are an adult now. You have your own family, I think so. Um, uh, you have the children growing up. You kind of find that in the circle that you move around, this idea of somebody existing as not just a body, but actually their existence as spirit soul only comes up when people have left, people have died, I guess. It only comes at the funeral or when you get news of the departure. So that is the situation, that is your observation over some amount of time in in the present situation, I guess, which is true. And I can understand what you're saying, Ashutosh ji. Uh, think about it. Think about it from this particular perspective that I'm about to offer. Growing up, we grew up with our parents, and we received certain teachings from them. Uh, we also grew up with friends. Now, the generation that we grew up with, who were our friends, typically, if that generation did not speak in terms of let us not hurt another person's soul or existence, उनकी आत्मा को चोट नहीं पहुंचानी चाहिए. If that generation did not speak in such terms, then that is the present generation that is existing right now as adults. If we ask our parents, or if we ask if you would go and ask your mother, maybe she would say that that is how all of them grew up. Growing up, that is what they would discuss. So as a generation, maybe we have kind of dissociated ourselves from certain essential truths in life. And it's still there because I think, yes. So as a generation, maybe that has happened. And if that has happened, then, well, we kind of owe it to ourselves and to our generation that we reorient ourselves. We get that back so that our next generation, at least, even if they are in the same situation where we are today, at least they can say that, yes, my dad or my mom would say that, and that has stayed with me. So, does that make sense? Yeah. So maybe we have to reinvent ourselves as a generation, I guess. Okay. Question number 3. What are all the things that can go wrong if we try to understand the Bhagavad Gita in the light of non-duality? If we understand the Bhagavad Gita only in the light of non-duality, then we will not be able to understand our existence completely. We are not just non-dual substance. When we say non-dual, which means there's none like us. There's, we are one of a kind. So that is our existence, certainly. All of us have individual identity. However, uh, we are part and parcels of the Supreme. And the reason for that is there is this existence where we have been overwhelmed by material energy. And this material energy belongs to the Supreme. So if we just focus on the non-dual aspect of our existence, and when I say non-dual, I think what we mean here is that we are who we are, and there's no one uh, like us. We are one of a kind. If that is what is non-dual. Um, if we project it as being the supreme existence, then we are taking quite a leap of faith. And this is a huge leap of faith, or this is a huge leap of imagination, which is not based on any logical reality. There is, reality sometimes can be logical or illogical. What is illogical reality? Uh, every time you ask a question, why? At one point of time, when when you're no longer able to dissect it further, then you're still left with why. So that is illogical. So it is a reality because we are asking a question why, and somehow or the other we are not able to really. We have gone to the extent of the universe, and we have come to a dead end in one sense. But it is illogical in the sense that should we be asking that question at that point of time? Just because we have the facility to ask, should we be asking? Or should we kind of look at the situation from another point of view? So I'm just trying to be very philosophical here. This is a typical way that a non-dualistic uh, the the non-dualistic school talks in a language just as I'm talking right now. So this idea that everything is one is not without knowing that everything is one when we are connected with the Supreme. If you're not connected to the Supreme, then everything is one can make us feel that we are the Supreme or we could be the Supreme, or all of us together could become the Supreme, which itself is very illogical. Think about it and let me know uh, if you can understand how it is illogical. So we have to have a complete understanding of our existence. We are non-dual, which means we are eternal Sat, but we are also uh, beings of pleasure, Ananda. And Ananda means dual. I have to experience pleasure. So I have to experience something which is suggesting that there is an experience, which is suggesting that there is two things, at least two things. So when we understand ourselves as beings of Ananda, when we understand that we are, um, our existence is of happiness or Ananda, then there has to be at least two things involved. Because pleasure has to be an experience of someone. Pleasure has to be my experience of something. So when we say of something, then that means it's dual. So non-dual because I'm one of a kind. I'm Sat. I'm eternal. Dual because I'm Ananda. So what can help me understand Sat and Ananda aspect is Chit or Chinmay. And that is why I'm Satchidananda. Uh, is that okay? Hare Krishna. Yes, yes, that is true. That the non-dual aspect is the Sat aspect. Okay, I'm just speaking. I'm speaking in terms of how the the Advaita school talks. You know what you call as Advaita. So therefore, I'm just talking in a very flowery language. I'm trying to use use a lot of art, yeah, a lot of alliterations here, a lot of artistic words. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Hare Krishna. Should we go to the next question, Damodar Haribo? There are quite a few questions, I think. Ah, Okay. So Vivek is asking the question that, or he has made this observation that in today's times we find the the world situation wherein the followers of Sanatan Dharma are being ravished in different ways. They are being very much exploited in different ways. And therefore, it seems that if we speak about how to protect ourselves and our religious practices, if we can focus on how to become physically and mentally strong, to be able to defend ourselves, that seems to be a more practical proposition than bhakti, uh, and hence the emphasis on bhakti in today's times may seem a little overboard because from the discussion, from the way the observation was made, what I felt was that it seems that bhakti kind of makes you mellow and it kind of makes you selfish because you are only thinking of your own salvation. And if you're doing so, then after your salvation, you leave behind a world, a cruel world, wherein the followers of Sanatana Dharma are being exploited much more. There's so much injustice being done to them. And this is what Vivek Prabhu he struggles with, whether there should be more emphasis on Shakti, that is the word he used, and should we try and uh, not emphasize Bhakti as much as we are doing right now, kind of overdoing the emphasis. That's an interesting observation. Um, okay, okay. So maybe in today's times, it is very important to have uh, intellectual heroism also. Um, Maybe that is the need of the hour right now more than physical heroism. So that is one the understanding of Shakti as you're suggesting. And so should we spend, as you said, 80-20 rule, 80% of our time trying to be strong intellectually and 20% of our time doing bhakti. Um, I think what is being expressed by the bhakti literatures and what you are suggesting are in sync. Bhakti uh, does not say that you have to. Um, I'm not sure. What I am feeling is that maybe within this observation is this misperception, and that I'm using that word. That's my take on it. That there's this misperception that bhakti is very mellow, or bhakti makes you give up the world. Bhakti is a very deep philosophy. There are various aspects of bhakti. When you speak of bhakti as this deep communion between the individual soul and the super soul, that is a very advanced platform of bhakti. There are other platforms of bhakti wherein one has to practice as a beginner or as a progressive student. That is called as sadhana bhakti. So sadhana bhakti is where uh, these principles are incorporated, and amongst those principles of what you are suggesting too. Sadhana bhakti is where you make your intellect very strong so that you understand what are principles of righteousness, and distinguish it from what is unrighteous. It is not just about how the followers are being massacred. It is not just that. It is about what can be done so that righteousness can be established in our lives, then as a family, as a community, and as a nation. Um, and whenever, according to the scriptures that are very prominently upheld in Sanatan Dharma, specifically Bhagavad Gita, that is what instigates the appearance of the Lord. When it becomes, as a nation, uh, as a family, when we are no longer able to do that because of our own shortcomings, then the Supreme Lord Himself comes to establish that. So wherever there is the teachings or the understandings of bhakti given to students who are still progressing, everyone is taught what is called as their, or they are at least made to understand or feel as to what is their duty. So duty is one of the limbs, understanding of duty and the performance of duty, which is called one's swadharma, or one's. Um, there are various scriptures which deal with this. A lot of scriptures that deal with this. If we have the time, if we have the inclination, that is what we are going to delve into. And the Bhakti school of thought gives us the facility to do that because that is how we progress. Without that, there is no progress. So, understanding of one's duty and performance of one's duty in terms of uh, duty towards oneself, next is duty towards one's family, then is society, then is the nation, and then is the world. So, this holistic approach is there even within the Bhakti school of thought. So, maybe if we have more discussions about it, with uh, maybe yourself and people who are well read in the Bhakti school of thought and who are practicing the Bhakti school of thought, uh, we'll find that all these suggestions that are there, or these observations that are there with you, they are incorporated in the Bhakti school of thought. What is an additional value that is sometimes missed out when we only focus on duty is that duty has to be performed with your intellect and your heart. Your intellect will help you understand proper duty, or will help you understand beauty and its nuances and its subtle aspects if your heart is in the proper place. So let me put this again. Let me again restate this. Duty is to be performed with your intellect and your heart. Many times we may not put our heart in our duty, we just put our intellect in it. There can be problems because of that. So duty has to be performed. You have to do it in a heartfelt way, your duty. For the intellect to be in to see things in the proper perspective, your heart has to be in the right place. For your heart to be in the right place, the only principle that helps you is devotion. And that is why whoever we have, whoever is there within Sanatan Dharma, any being that we worship, whether it be the demigods, whether it be the goddess, whether it be Lord Indra, whether it be Brahma, they'll find that there is always the scope of offering forgiveness and love if one's one's opponent is sincerely repenting. Now, if that were not there, if that aspect was not there, the aspect of when we speak of bhakti as devotion, what devotion does is keeps your heart in the right place. If that were not there, then we would simply be uh, people with principles, people who distinguish between right and wrong. We wouldn't have a heart that could accommodate everyone. So let us try and really understand what bhakti embodies or what bhakti exemplifies. Devotion exemplifies a heart in the right place, which means Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Now, within that, we are all extensions of this planet. She is Vasudha, she is our mother. Within that, we have to understand within this principle, this is where our heart is in place. Now we use our intellect. Our intellect is if someone is suffering from some illnesses, then we need to put them in quarantine. We need to give them some treatment. We need to be a little harsh towards them if needed, or we can also be compassionate towards them. If we do not understand this aspect of what the scriptures explain as a devotional heart, then we may just be like machines. We may be sentient machines, that is it. We may have feelings, but our feelings could be very mechanical. So that is where bhakti is important. Bhakti, Shakti has to supplement bhakti. Is that helpful? I'm sorry, but I think that's all right. You explained that how ISKCON could do much more. Um, it has responded in limited capacities or in limited scenarios when ISKCON was personally, when there was something against ISKCON in Mumbai, then ISKCON responded fiercely. Uh, and your observation is acceptable, definitely. When I spoke about bhakti, I wasn't limiting myself to ISKCON. Like let's say the Ram Mandir case, there were so many devotees who were practicing bhakti, but they were uh, trained lawyers. So when we speak of when we speak, um, I did not feel like that. I was just I think that your observation is that's your observation and it is valid. And I'm trying to just say that yes, there have been so many achievements that we have achieved uh, maybe for a couple of generations. ISKCON is an institution that is reflecting um, a very ancient tradition and culture. And I would be wrong if I say that ISKCON is uh, the only leading institution that is doing that. I think that would be uh, too much of too much pride in there. If I say that it is just ISKCON, or as you put it, that ISKCON has done such a lot. Yes, there have been a lot of achievements that have come out, come to ISKCON or ISKCON's way. However, uh, is not independent in itself and its principles, the principles that the institution adopts. These are principles that are there since the beginning of creation. And over so many thousands of years, we've seen so we have seen so many generations of very exemplary personalities who have enriched society, enriched this entire planet, um, as maybe a group of people or as leaders. They have done that. So the glory belongs to the entire tree of Vedic knowledge. It cannot just belong to one leaf, which is there in the present. When I say leaf, I'm thinking in terms of where uh, ISKCON as an institution is today. 100 years ago, we were not there. Also, 60 years ago, we were not there. But the Vedic thought and the Vedic perception was still there. That was the Gaudiya. We come from the Gaudiya lineage. The Gaudiya lineage itself is from the Madhva lineage. The Madhva lineage itself is from the Vaishnava lineage. So this is a huge school of thought, a very huge school of thought. Um, People like you and me, we are in touch with just one of the branches of this huge tree. Personally, I am in touch with ISKCON, which is a branch of the Gaudiya tree, which is of the Gaudiya branch, which is one of the branches of another sub branch called as the Madhva Sampradaya, which is another branch of. So this is just like a huge uh, school of thought, very big. Obviously, one branch is going to have a certain set of challenges that the other branches don't have, and therefore that branch has to fortify itself. If there is some insect that is attacking it, and that branch has to fortify itself. The others will only come to the support of that branch if it needs it, because that is where the direct impact is. So all of these various branches of this Vedic school of thought or Sanatana Dharma, um, they are very very deep rooted and strong. So whenever I kind of address bhakti, this is a school that I'm referring to. It is much before the institution of ISKCON, and it could be, if the institution kind of in the future has a different name, then it would go beyond this name and title of ISKCON. So I feel humbled enough to be. This is what the teachings that I have understood is that I feel very humble enough to be a part of this huge expanse called as Sanatana Dharma. Now within that, there are innumerable divisions, because that is what is variegatedness. That is how we get to exhibit our individuality. So our individuality needs space and it needs expression. So whenever there is these parameters involved, space and expression, then it becomes individualistic. We cannot call it, it cannot be collective. It will be just an individual group or a subset of that individual group. Now, even though it is a subset of that individual group, it is still resting on this huge tree called as Sanatana Dharma. So ISKCON can never be dissociated with Sanatana Dharma, or the thought that is known as Sanatana Dharma, the principles that are embodied in the school of thought called as Sanatana Dharma, or the Vedic way of thought. Now, coming to the second observation that you did make is about carry this pain till you perish. And therein, the Vedic school of thought has has another proposition, not a better proposition, but another proposition. One never perishes. And at the same time, there is no need to carry the pain. And how is that understood? When you are present right now performing a duty, it is important for you to feel the pain. When you transition into another part of your life, let's say you have become old and you have become a little invalid, Your senses are failing, your memory is failing. Now your duty is something else. Your duty has to translate into another sphere. As a soul, I'm not going to perish, but the body is going to perish. If I have not prepared myself earlier for this phase of my life, then I'll be in ignorance, I'll be in forgetfulness. So this Sanatan way of thought or the Vedic way of thought is to let others who are more capable now take on the responsibility, and you retire into that sphere of life, into that existence of life where you can gain salvation. Because before you, before this generation that I am in, my previous generation handed over the responsibility to me. How I accepted that responsibility is now that's my thing. They handed it over to me, and they went for their own salvation. Or at least that is the concept of Sanatan Dharma. So both has to be done. There has to be Swarth and Paramarth, as it is said in colloquial language. It means one has to act according to the present circumstances, and then one has to uh, one has to modify, or one has to change according to what the future is going to bring us to. Before our senses fail us completely, we have to hand over this responsibility to much more capable shoulders. That is our duty. We have to train these strong shoulders to be able to hold up this responsibility. And then we also follow in the footsteps of what our ancestors have done. So in Sanatan Dharma, both coexist, but at different phases of our life. Is that helpful? Yeah, think about it. Think about it. Chew over it. We can have more discussion. You're welcome. Okay, this is. Oh, so this is the last question that I have here on this printed paper. For me, the question is, for me, the inevitable one question is, do we really need to have purpose and meaning to life? Uh, Simple answer, yes. If we don't, then we will kind of not have a definition of existence itself. So if there is an alternative to having a meaning and purpose in life, then I'm open to that idea to have some discussion. That's it. Yes, we need to have uh, some meaning and purpose in life. Okay. Okay. Correct. So, okay. So, we are considering birth to be the beginning of our existence, at least theoretically. That in this context, that when we are born carefree, and then slowly we find things getting added to. Uh, uh, there are so many things that come up, and then one has to kind of face them, and finally, it seems that there are so many purposes to be fulfilled, or so many things to be done, get done. So if we could just remain in that seemingly blissful state of carefreeness, um, so then there would really be no need for having any meaning or purpose to life, um, which is which is like, it seems that this proposition is very attractive. Uh, Unfortunately, the fact is that we do grow up. The fact is that we started off as a single cell when we were the embryo. That is how we began. It basically meant there was just one cell membrane, and there was just a cytoplasm and one nucleus. And then it divided into two and then four. And now for that, for all these four to function, or these 8 or 16, or let's say 1,000 cells to function coherently, we need interconnections. So now, as soon as there is interconnections, there's a purpose to those interconnections. So as soon as we are born, we have a body. We cannot stop its progression towards growth and dwindling and death. And if we are not able to stop that, then because of the complexity of existence, we have to find a way to traverse through it. We have to find a way to get through this complexity of what is called as life. And as soon as we search out how, or as soon as we try to figure out how to traverse this complexity, we need to have a goal, we need to have a purpose and a meaning. So, like it or not, we are we will be forced to find some kind of meaning and purpose to life. That is generic, generally speaking, in a generic sense, everyone will be forced to do that. Therefore, the scriptures say that an intelligent person questions, or an intelligent person really asks this question: why do I have to undergo this suffering? Why am I forced to undergo these changes? Because they bring suffering. As soon as you seek out purpose in life, as you stated, you cannot be carefree anymore. So why are we forced into situations where we practically have no other option? There's none. To survive, we have to breathe. If we don't breathe, we won't survive. So inhalation is uh, is a very complex process. Let's say something affects our process of inhalation. Exhalation is not as complex as inhalation is. Or exhalation is not as it does not need as much energy as inhalation requires. But you can only exhale if you inhale. So now there's a difficulty. If something challenges our inhalation, then immediately we are forced to have this purpose in life, survive. Then there is you need to eat to survive. So now there is another purpose: what to eat, how to eat. There has to be a meaning to that. When you need to take rest, you need companionship, and the whole saga of life unfolds. So when an intelligent person, that is called as real intelligence according to the Vedic scriptures, an intelligent person questions and accepts the fact that I do not know, I need to seek answers. When a person does that, when one accepts that I do not know, I need to seek answers, then the quest begins towards how to actually find or how to discover a world that is carefree. So right now we are unfortunately in a situation where we will be forced to accept purposes in life. So are we going to accept that which is forced upon us, or are we going to define our, or are we going to find our own purpose, which could be the real purpose of our existence, or are we going to seek what could be the real purpose of life? The goal being how to be carefree, how to be happy. So that is helpful. Okay, thank you. Uh, yes, um, I think that resonates with me too in a way, in a certain way, that life makes you understand that uh, it makes life makes you feel humble over a number of years. You understand that you know so little. You have such less knowledge, um, and one of the consequences of that is that how much more should we try to know and understand when would this end? Because it would be so nice not to have any more research or not to have any more seekings. It's just a lot. That kind of tiredness can come, or that kind of helplessness can be there. Uh, Stability sometimes appears to be complete emptiness. We feel that if an object or a substance is totally empty, then it would be unaffected by any situation, it would be stable. That's a good proposition. Uh, there is also another proposition which could be as relevant or maybe more relevant, and that is fullness also brings in stability. When you're completely full, whatever our capacity is, when we are totally full, then we are stable too, because nothing affects us. The difference between emptiness and fullness is that in emptiness, there is always a possibility that it can attract something to fill it up with. In fullness, There's no longer any possibility that it can attract anything to fill it up, because it is full now. So of the two propositions, as I said, my proposition could be as relevant or more relevant. So in emptiness, that's the logic. This is again the Advaita school of thought. The Dvaita school of thought also, when I say Advaita school of thought, because they always use these esoteric words. The Dvaita school of thought tries to make it very simple. So emptiness seems to be a stable kind of existence. However, by its very logic, it means it can attract, or it means that if something else can always fill it up. But if you are full, completely full, then your stability is long lasting, tending towards infinity. The process of devotional service helps one understand one's fullness. Krishna consciousness or God consciousness helps us understand one's fullness and helps us achieve that fullness. Just another observation. I hope you can think, you can meditate on it. So that's all that I have here. Now, are you asking Ashutosh or are you asking me? Sure. There was somebody who wanted to ask a question. Was it Manish Prabhu? Okay. Okay, so your observations are twofold. One is when you say the Western culture, basically it means the Western theology, or does it mean the anti the atheistic way of life, a consumeristic life, materialistic life? Right. Yes. Yes. So the yes. So your concern is for the next generation, uh, especially as an Indian or somebody who comes from this ancient culture and tradition of Sanatan Dharma. Your concern is in coming generations. In fact, you feel that maybe in 20 years itself, um, things are going to be, there's going to be so much drastic influence of materialism, where people kind of accept, they're only open to the reductionist way of perception. Means you have to break it down into facts, observable facts. That is a reductionist approach, uh, materialistic approach. And secondly, there's a lot of conversions taking place uh, based on uh, people getting money and facilities and being asked to convert, especially in India, into different other so-called religions of the world. So the next generation may be affected in this twofold ways. Is that correct? Uh, Very simply, in very simple words, what I understand about Sanatan Dharma is that Sanatan Dharma means seva. It basically means that I have to take out my time, I have to spend a part of my energy and my resources in serving others. That is the crux of Sanatan Dharma. Theism or atheism, monotheism, polytheism, and all these various things that the present day universities have uh, divided into different schools of thought. All of these are different ways, different practices that are supposed to help one do service or save. Now, the topmost understanding of seva is that if you water the root of the tree, then the nutrition or the essential nutrition would reach every single aspect of the tree. And that is why God consciousness is an inherent aspect of Sanatana Dharma. Although uh, other schools of thought are also uh, they are also given space. So unless and until we practice this, and I would really encourage everyone who's there on this forum, find some way to do seva, and try and do seva in those um, particular sectors, in those particular streams where you're interested. If you feel some a lot about these conversions taking place, come to India. Spend some time. Just take a month's sabbatical every year from your work. Reach out to the people, at least in one remote village. There are a lot of there is a lot of young people doing it. Personally, I know a lot of them. So whenever I hear this kind of views, I can understand that this diaspora here in the West is not directly in touch with the other diaspora. There's the communication link between the two has not been set up. Uh, so if you want information, there's a lot of information of what is happening. There's a need for um, the work that is there in front of us, those who are involved with um, ground realities. Uh, the work is immense, and it is not just about material resources in terms of money that we need. We need help. We also need help in terms of human resources. So 15 days a year, a month a year, if you can take a vacation, come over, uh, go to some remote place, uh, and the rest of the time when you work, uh, try and blog, write blogs, make a presence felt on social media, uh, do some research, come up with facts. There are so many facts. There are so many references, evidences that can perfectly satisfy the reductionist mind or the mind that has this reductionist approach. So spend some of your time doing that. Encourage your friends, form your own forum. Sanatan Dharma is about individuality. Sanatan Dharma is coming together um, in principle as a movement. It is not about an institution. It's not about just one person being in charge. So I would suggest that if you can find some ways to connect with so many happenings that are taking place in India and otherwise. And it is not just ISKCON. There are n number of NGOs doing this activity in India and in the other parts of the world. They are these silent warriors. We call them the silent warriors or the unspoken heroes and heroines. Find a way to get connected with them. Be inspired and do seva. That is it. So yes, so there is somebody else on this forum. So please connect. All right. It's not this is one of the propaganda also that has been put out just to make let us say people who call themselves as Indians follow the Sanatan Dharma to make them feel insecure. It's not uh, it's not as let us say cataclysmic as sometimes it is put out there. At the same time, there's a lot of scope for a lot of seva. There's a lot of scope for seva, for service. So is that helpful? Is that okay? Yes, that's the real world. Yeah, we live in it. It's true. And the next generation, they have a lot of. We can be very optimistic. Uh, the next generation they have a very good future as long as we conserve the present for them. We protect what is there in the present for them. Okay? You're welcome. To ours. Thank you so very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If, generally, I'm always happy to interact with people, so feel free to reach out to me or let me know if I can reach out to you to have any more discussions. Okay? Thank you. So I'll leave this session. Is it alright if I leave? Thank you so very much. Hare Krishna, Shila Prabhupada ki jai.